Once upon a time, in a kingdom far, far away, there lived a poor woodcutter. He lived in a small house with his wife and children. They had very little money and often went to bed hungry. One day, while chopping wood, the woodcutter found a small pot that was no bigger than his thumb. He took it home and gave it to his wife. "Please sell this pot," he said, "and we can buy some food with the money." The wife put the pot on the shelf with all of their other kitchen pots. That night, the family was just getting ready for bed when they heard a knock at the door. "Who could that be?" the wife said, opening the door just a crack. There stood a strange woman with a large basket. "I'd like to buy some of your pots," she said. "I need them for an important job I have tomorrow." The wife thought to herself, "This is our only chance to make some money." So she agreed to sell the small pot. The woman took the pot from the shelf, put it in her basket, and walked out into the night. "Wait," called the wife. "How much will you pay us for the pot?" The woman stopped and turned around. "Why, I'll give you whatever you want," she said. "You may choose a bag of gold, a house full of jewels, or a handsome prince for a husband." Then she disappeared down the road. The wife turned to her husband. "Let's choose the house full of jewels," she said. But then she thought for a moment. "No, a bag of gold would be better. We can use the gold to buy lots of food." So they agreed to ask for the bag of gold. Just then, another woman knocked at the door. She, too, had a large basket. "I'd like to buy one of your pots," she said. "I need them for an important job I have tomorrow." Again, the wife thought to herself, "This is our only chance to make some money." So she agreed to sell another pot. This time, it was a bigger pot. The second woman took it, placed it in her basket, and walked away. "How much will you pay us for the pot?" The woman turned around and said, "Why, I'll give you whatever you want. You may choose a bag of gold, a house full of jewels, or a handsome prince for a husband." Then she disappeared down the road. The wife thought for a moment. "A house full of jewels would be nice," she said, "or maybe a handsome prince for a husband." But then she thought for a moment more. "No, a bag of gold would be best. We can use the gold to buy lots of food." So they asked for the bag of gold. Just then, yet another woman knocked at the door. She, too, had a large basket. "I'd like to buy one of your pots," she said. "I need them for an important job I have tomorrow." Once again, the wife thought to herself, "This is our only chance to make some money." So she agreed to sell the largest pot. The third woman took it, placed it in her basket, and walked away. "Wait," called the wife. "How much will you pay us for the pot?" The woman turned around and said, "Why, I'll give you whatever you want. You may choose a bag of gold, a house full of jewels, or a handsome prince for a husband." Then she disappeared down the road. This time, the wife didn't even hesitate. "It's a bag of gold," she called after her. Well, the three women were actually fairies in disguise. And the pots were magic pots. Each fairy had come to collect one of the magic pots, so they could use them to help their friends. And the woodcutter's wife had tricked them. When the first fairy reached her cottage, she took the small pot and placed it on her hearth. "Magic pot!" she cried. "I want to see the inside of the oven." In an instant, the walls of the oven disappeared, and the fairy saw everything that was inside. Soon the other fairies arrived at their cottages and did the same thing. "Magic pot!" cried the second fairy. "I want to see the inside of the oven." In an instant, the walls of the oven disappeared, and the fairy saw everything that was inside. But the third fairy was very angry. When she cried, Magic pot. I want to see the inside of the oven. The walls of the oven disappeared, and she saw not only the inside of the oven, but also the woodcutter's wife, peeking inside her cottage through the keyhole. The fairy was very upset. She had been tricked. She waved her magic wand over the wife and said, "You will never be able to see through a keyhole again." Then she left the cottage. The next morning, the woodcutter's wife got up and wanted to open the window to let in some fresh air. But as she turned the key, she cried out, "Oh dear, what has happened? I can't see out of the window." The woodcutter and their children came running. "What's the matter, mother?" since they asked. "I can't see out of the window," she answered. "The key turns, but the window won't open." Then the woodcutter took the key and tried to open the window, but he, too, could only stare out at the world through a tiny crack. "We're trapped!" cried the woodcutter's son. "We'll never get out of this house." The daughter started to cry, but then she had an idea. She ran to the shelf where the 2 remaining pots were kept, picked them up and brought them to the window. "Magic pots!" she cried. "I want to see outside." In an instant, the window opened and the children looked out to see the most beautiful garden they had ever seen. Flowers of every color imaginable bloomed in the garden. There were bushes loaded with ripe fruits and sparkling fountains that seemed to call out to them. The children ran into the garden. They played and laughed until the sun began to set. Then they went home and told their parents about the wonderful garden they had found. The next day, the family decided to visit the garden again. They took the magic pots with them and hid behind some bushes. Soon, the first fairy appeared in the gardens. She was followed by the second fairy, and then the third fairy came skipping along. When she saw the woodcutter's family hiding in the bushes, she cried, "Oh, my magic pot! Someone has stolen my magic pot!" The other fairies had lost their pots, too. Together, they searched everywhere for the missing pots, but they couldn't find them. Finally, the third fairy sat down on a nearby stone and cried out, "Whoever has my pot must return it immediately." Her voice echoed through the forest and reached the ears of the woodcutter's son. He was playing nearby with his little sister and the magic pots. When he heard the fairy's words, he knew that he had to return the pots. He ran as fast as he could to the fairies and returned all 3 magic pots. The fairies were very happy to have their pots back. They thanked the children and then disappeared. And the woodcutter's family? Well, they were never poor again. They had food to eat and clothes to wear, and they never looked at a keyhole or a window the same way again.